Broadcasting live from the New Wasteland, this is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome to Tap Tap Concede. Graham here.
Cameron here.
I'm over here.
James is over there.
Disembodied voice.
Disembodied
Unless
voice.
you're listening to the audio, in which case it makes no difference.
I'm disembodied.
It'll have a slightly different tonal quality.
It will indeed.
Yeah. And today we are going to talk about, well, magic, obviously, but we're going to talk a bit about, we're talking a bit about Oath Limited, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also some brand new news as of this morning, assuming that the date is correct, because it wasn't last time I did a podcast. Eternal Masters has been announced, so that'll be interesting. But first, Cam, you want to roll the big dice?
I do.
The big die, and then we will. Nice, bounces really well.
Yeah. 3.
3. Wow, that's 1, 2, 3. All right. This is a pack of 2012 core set
Ooh.
that was given to us by Graylin at GP Vancouver.
Was this the set that had
Galen, I'm sorry.
Exalted as its
I
mechanic?
think that was 2013.
Yeah, that was 2013, I think. 2012 would have been the set just after...
Did this have Scry?
I don't know. This would have been just after Zendikar. This would have been the core set before we headed to Phyrexia.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This
So
was-
this
so
would have
this-
had like Master of Illusions,
This had-
Phantasmal Bear.
Bloodthirst.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
this is actually the core set that would have been just... would have come out just as we came back to the game, was it? Or no, that would have been
No,
2011.
this was after.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would have been...
This was our first core set, because
Yeah.
we started playing just before Scars.
That's right.
So first up, we have a Blood Ogre, which is a 2/2 for 2 and a red, with First Strike, which is actually not that bad by itself, but it has Bloodthirst 1. If an opponent was dealt damage this turn, this creature enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. When was Blood Ogre reprinted most recently? It was in...
I believe it was one of the... Oh, shoot.
Was it in Modern Masters 2015?
Not 2015, I don't think.
Bloodthirst was around recently, somewhere.
Conspiracy?
Maybe? I don't remember. Anyway,
I'm looking it up.
he was pretty all right.
I got it. It was in Modern Masters 2015.
Okay, cool. Anyway, yeah, Blood Ogre, totally fine. Really good in that deck, especially.
Grey Ogre with blood.
Yeah. Greater Basilisk, a 3/5 for 3 green with Death Touch. So annoying.
Yeah, this is powerful magic right here.
So annoying.
Powerful limited magic.
Like, blocks very well, attacks very well too.
Yeah.
Because they have to put like 2 creatures in front of it to kill it, and you just get to kill them no matter what they are because it has Death Touch.
Yep.
Obviously, no matter what they are. Obviously, there's corner cases. But anyway, Merfolk Looter. Yeah, don't get this anymore. Just good old Merfolk Looter. It's a 1/1 for 1 and a blue. Tap to draw a card and discard a card. And then discard a card.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
When I was first playing the game as a child, I never appreciated how powerful this effect is.
Basically, Jace.
Yeah.
I mean, this was just reprinted as a mythic,
Yeah.
essentially. Stonehorn Dignitary is a 1/4 for 3 and a white. Rhino Soldier. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent skips his or her next combat phase. Because he's got diplomatic immunity, I guess? This
guess so.
was kind of interesting. It was never a high pick, but it was sort of like just randomly, you don't get to attack for a turn. Well, next combat phase. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they don't get to block. It just means that on their next turn they can't attack you.
Yeah.
Good old friend, the Goblin Arsonist, wearing a little Zendikar Hedron on his head. 1/1 for a single red mana, and when he dies, you may have it deal 1 damage to target creature or player.
This guy basically always swings through until late game.
Just pings
Yeah.
a little bit. Kind of annoying. Arachnus Web. I can words. Arachnus Web. 2 and a green, enchantment creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, and activated abilities cannot be activated. At the beginning of the end step, if enchanted creature's power is 4 or greater, destroy Arachnus Web.
See, I remember this card because wasn't there a rare spider that tutored for these?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the spider, but yeah. So this is actually pretty good because it's a pacifism. Actually, it's an arrest in green.
which generally doesn't have access to those effects.
Yeah, and so the downside is it can't hit bigger creatures. Or it hits bigger creatures, but then at the end of turn they break out.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I love the flavor of that. This seemed very, very good. And especially if you could... Oh, it was just called Arachnus Spinner, wasn't it? That was it.
Yeah.
Because the Arachnus Spinner went to look for Arachnus Webs. I think that's correct. Anyway, it was pretty all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
that's right. The it was right there.
Yet I don't recall it being a very high pick on its own, the Webs.
No, but like if you
The
could get
Arachnus
them
Spinner...
for free off the spider.
Yeah, the Arachnus Spinner with a 5/7 with reach for 6 is pretty good. Oh, right. You don't just get to tutor for it. You get to search your graveyard and or library and put it onto the battlefield attached to it. You just get to put it into play on a creature. That's pretty good. Lava Axe is next. Good old Lava Axe. 4 and a red for a sorcery. Deals 5 damage to target player.
Target opponent's life total is begins at 15.
Pretty much. It's still not amazing. Frost Breath, I like way better, actually. It's a 2 and a blue, instant. Tap up to 2 target creatures, and they do not untap during their controller's next untap step.
Wizards has been printing this card in different forms in the last several sets.
I like that.
Yeah,
I dig it a lot.
it's a useful blue effect.
Yeah.
It's just, it feels like they've been trying to converge on a solution for it, or just one, I guess, that is appropriate to the format.
Well, the recent one was Adverse Conditions,
Right.
which was
Devoid.
3 in a blue. It was devoid, but then you got a
Scion.
a Scion out of it as
Right, which seems like
well. I'm on board.
Add a colorless, get a Scion. Sure.
Zombie Goliath is a 4/3 zombie giant for 4 and a black.
Oh, that's nice.
It's fine. I think zombies were marginally relevant. I don't know. Wow, Goblin Grenade. Forgot they reprinted that. Single red mana sorcery as an additional cost to cast it. Sacrifice a goblin, but then it deals 5 damage to target creature or player.
Or player.
So,
Goblin Arsonist.
yeah, exact Goblin Arsonist, you get 6 damage.
Yeah. Real cards.
Great Sword is fine. It's a 3 mana equipment that is 3 to equip and gives a creature +3/+0.
It's the fine sword.
It's the fine sword.
Yeah.
It's not that great.
Great
not
Sword
that
is great.
Yeah. Combust. Secret sideboard tech. 1 and a red for an instant that cannot be countered by spells or abilities, and it deals 5 damage to target white or blue creature. The damage cannot be prevented. So it's uncounterable, the damage can't be prevented, it's instant speed, only 2 mana, but it can only hit white or blue creatures.
Definition of a sideboard card.
It
I'm
sure is.
actually reasonably happy that Wizards moved away from these kinds of cards.
Yeah. We have a foil, actually, which is a very pretty looking foil. It's a Jade Mage. The Cycle of Mages was pretty good. The Jade Mage is a 2/1 human shaman for 1 and a green. For 2 and a green, put a 1/1 green Sapperling token onto the battlefield.
It seems totally fine.
Yeah.
I like that ability. My preferred one was Azure Mage, but that's just because I'm Cam.
I mean, Azure Mage was very good. The Onyx Mage,
The one that gave Death Touch? Yeah.
was really annoying because it could give any creature Death Touch.
Yeah.
Really
just
irritating.
Wrecked combat math.
Yeah, Onyx Mage. Called it. Yes. Anyway, our rare out of this pack, we also have a Sapperling token if you're into that. I don't know if this card reader reads Sapperling tokens. It does not read tokens. Anyway, our rare is it's fine. Dragon Skull Summit. It's a land, taps for black or red, and it enters tapped unless you control a swamp or a mountain. But it is not itself a swamp or a mountain, which is the relevant difference between it and the new ones.
I think I'm just taking the looter, by the way.
Yeah. I think
Like-
Merfolk Looter.
It's probably looter because there's no, especially because I don't think there's any other blue.
There's Frost Breath.
Yeah. Which I mean is fine, but I think I just take the looter and go
And
for
hope to
it.
wield the Yeah.
And hope to wield the frost breath. To be honest, yeah.
Like the Frost Breath isn't even a high pick, so people probably, like whoever's to your left isn't going to take it. And there's a lot of decent red.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Jade Mage.
It's honestly kind of a soft pack.
Yeah, it's not overall. It's not a super powerful pack. Yeah, actually, you're right. It probably is Merfolk Looter, but maybe you would pick something different. Who knows? We certainly had a lot of opportunity to pick things recently. We did the annual Loading Ready Run, goes up to a cabin that's at a ski place, but very few of us actually
Ski vacation.
So the three of us spent a lot of time drafting because it was release. It was release weekend for Oath of the Gatewatch on Magic Online, and I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I did that well overall. I think I did okay once or twice. I got to split the finals of some 8-4s. I also got crushed in round 1 in some 8-4s. So it goes.
Yeah.
But how are you liking the format?
I like it a lot. I think Oath of the Gatewatch has fixed some of the problems I had with Battle for Zendikar.
Oh, yeah.
Where Battle for Zendikar had a lot of really sweet synergistic decks. And if that deck didn't materialize, you just weren't very good. Right? You wound up with a lot of like 2/3s or 2/4s that had abilities that never activated.
Right.
And I think Oath of the Gatewatch added a lot of cards that smoothed those out and gave new functions to older cards.
And the cards that go into archetypes in Oath draft, I think are better on their own.
Yeah, like things like Ondu War Priest.
That's exactly the card I was about to say. Obviously, is amazing in the ally deck. This is the guy. He's a 2/2 or War Cleric.
War Cleric.
War Cleric. 2/2 for 1 and a white, and with cohort, meaning you tap him and another untapped ally, and you gain 2 life. Obviously, in the black-white life gain deck, he's an all-star, and he's very good in any kind of heavy ally deck like green-white support. But if you're just in a deck running white, he's a bear, which is great.
Yep.
And well, not great, but
it's useful.
He's playable, and you will probably have other allies, so you might occasionally get this sort of random upside.
Yeah, like
he shines in the decks that he belongs in, but he's otherwise still good.
Yeah, like the 1/4 vampire that when it becomes tapped you gain a life.
Vampire Envoy, yeah.
Very similar role.
Yeah.
Where it's extraordinarily useful in the black-white life gain deck, but is also just kind of a decent enough card.
Yeah. Also, really good combo.
Well, yeah,
because she's an ally.
Yeah.
Also, the Vampire Envoy is really, really good with Holdout Settlement.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which is it's a land that taps for colorless, or you can tap it for any color, but you also have to tap an untapped creature you control. And so you can just sit there and be like, end of your turn, I make red mana and tap this thing and gain a life.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything with the mana. You can just be like, I float a red mana.
Yeah.
And pass priority.
So, like, I really like the black-white life gain deck that isn't dependent on lifelink keywords, because the cards like Malakir Familiar suddenly turned into kind of beasts because they have like instant speed activations, like with the synergy between Malakir Familiar and the 2/3 black Eldrazi that you can.
Oh, Essence Strainer.
Essence Strainer.
Essence Depleter.
Essence Depleter. Yes.
Sorry.
I got a Malakir Familiar up to like a 5/4 Flying Death Touch at the pre-release. That felt good.
Why can't I remember which one Malakir Familiar is?
It's the 2/1 Flying Lifelink, Flying Death Touch.
Of course, the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gets +1/+1 whenever you gain a life.
Bloodbond Vampire is also way scarier now because Bloodbond Vampire was only good in the black-white life gain deck, but I think there's other decks you can be in to gain life, but also just the black-white life gain deck has a better setup through the OGW packs. I don't know how you feel about this, James.
I have feelings.
Good. I'm glad.
I haven't actually had really much of a chance to play with the white-black deck, so I haven't actually done much in terms of
Played against it a couple times, I tell you what.
the life gain thing. Like, I don't actually think I've ever seen Bloodbond Vampire played
Really?
against me.
She gets real scary.
Maybe I've just been lucky, I guess. The card that's been, I mean, this is a very different card than what you guys are talking about.
Go for it.
But the card that I have been having fun with and been getting completely wrecked by is this card.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Mrs.
boy.
Judgment.
Mrs. Judgment.
I had to read this card at the pre-release when it got played against me because I was like, it does what?
Yeah, so for 4 and a green at sorcery speed, you support 2, and then you choose up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it deals damage equal to its power to that creature.
They don't get to fight back, though.
There's no fight back. It's just so if you just support on a 2 power and a 3 power, now you have a 3 power and a 4 power.
Yep.
And assuming you have no other creatures with +1/+1 counters, which could be the case, but let's just say you don't, you're still just directly dealing 7 damage to anything you want. And that pretty much kills the majority of things in the set, except for some of the higher power or higher toughness Eldrazi's.
Yeah, and imagine like you're in the green-white deck, and the turn before this, you've played like 1-drop, 2-drop, Saddleback Lagak.
Yeah.
And then reinforcement or captain, the
Relief captain.
relief captain.
Yeah.
And your entire board has +1/+1 counters on it.
Like the dream curve is like a 2-drop, let's say the War Cleric, who cares? Or the 1/3 flyer.
Something with a power and toughness.
Honestly, the 1/3 flyer is very good in the green-white support deck. Then a 3-drop, like the Uraga Auxiliary tends to wheel, because unless you're in the green-white support deck, you don't want it. Then yeah, turn 4, either of the 4-drop support spells, both of which are really good. Saddleback Lagak, which is just great to say, and Relief Captain. And then on turn 5, Nissa's Judgment, and you will have 3 creatures with counters, and they're all just punching this one giant thing.
Yeah, they just stand in a circle around Kozilek going, gonna cry, gonna cry, gonna cry, gonna cry. Kozilek's like, no, I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not gonna cry.
Yeah. Also, Saddleback Lagak is like wonderful because it is the antidote to Whippoorwill Aerialist and like Girapur Gearcrafter. Like
Was
all
there
the,
sort of tongue twisters to say?
yeah, Bone Scythe Sliver. But this, just
Saddleback
snappy.
Lagak.
Yeah,
Good old Saddleback Lagak.
great mouthfeel.
Yeah. Also, he looks rad.
Yeah. Look
Good
at him.
Lagak will carry you through thick and thin. A bad one, well, it's a tasty dinner.
That's a handsome Lagak right there.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about some red cards. How about Zada's Commando?
Much, much better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, this card is pretty bonkers.
Deceptively good.
Yeah, so
Like you pick up
for 1 in a red, you get a 2/1 Goblin Archer ally with First Strike and Cohort, which taps to deal 1 damage to target opponent. That's really good.
This is a surprisingly useful control card.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
it really is.
you get
it
2 or 3 of these
It
guys.
seems very aggressive, because you're like, oh, it's a 2/1 with First Strike for 2. That's super aggressive. It's actually better to have 2 of these
Blocking.
on defense,
Yeah.
so you have 4 power of First Strike to block.
Yep.
And then you just sit there and ping them.
Yeah, and be like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, ideally, you have 2 of these and 2 other whatever allies so that you get to ping for twice at every turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zada's Commando, I was like, yeah, that seems all right. No, it's way better than just all right. It really caught me off guard.
This is, I would happily play a deck of these. I think 23 Zada's Commandos and some land.
Dear God.
I would try that deck. I would see where that goes.
We should try that deck. That would be entertaining.
I would see where that goes.
We could build that on Magic Online. You can take you can just build a 40-card deck and take it into a freeform duel and do that.
I mean, screw that. Why 40? Let's just make it a standard deck.
Standard deck.
It's just standard. Just go, what,
40?
I guess 40-20? You
Yeah.
can maybe
40
just
Commandos, 20
go,
Mountains.
you could maybe go like 18.
Judge.
Yeah, exactly. How about the embodiment cards? So Embodiment of Fury, which is a red one, 3 in a red for a elemental. It has trample. It has land creatures you control have trample, and a landfall triggers a land you control to become a 3/3 elemental creature with haste until end of turn. It's still a land.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a chance to play with this one yet. I understand that it's the better of the 2, and I get on the surface a 4/3 for trample for 4. I think is better than a 4/4 vigilance for 5.
Correct.
But
Which is a green one.
yeah, the Embodiment of Insight, it's a 4/4 vigilance for 4 and a green. All your land creatures also have vigilance, and then landfall, you can make any of your lands a 3/3 with haste until end of turn. I really like the Embodiment of Insight. I especially like the vigilance because you can get in and still use the land.
I love vigilance on mana dorks.
Yeah.
Also, I really appreciate how Embodiment of Insight is in a Veronic Mignot forest.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Even though it's a different artist.
Yeah,
I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a small thing, but I like it.
But yeah, the embodiments, well, I mean, at least this one, like I said, have really impressed me as, even if I'm in an unrelated deck that is green. Like it doesn't have to be the landfall deck. It's just sort of, it's just pretty good. And you know, like late game, you get to sort of just, it makes all your land drops, you know, especially if you don't need the land, it makes your land drops a sort of like, oh, also I have this other attacker you weren't planning on.
Also, these turn your awakened lands from 0/0s with +1/+1 counters on them into base 3/3s with +1/+1 counters on them.
Yes, if you have, like you say, if you have a 0/0 with 3 counters because you awakened a sheer drop, and you can pick it with this, and yeah, then it becomes a 3/3, but it still has the counter, so you have this 6/6 vigilance all of a sudden.
Yep.
Surprise.
Like, giant growth is back.
Yeah, it's I think the embodiments are very strong. Are they? I think there's like 1 or 2 cards that mention when a land enters the battlefield. Are these the only 2 landfall cards in OGW?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Huh. Oh no, wait. Yeah, no, they are. They are. There's Mina and Den, which let you play an additional land.
Yes.
And you can pay a red and a green to return a land to your hand, and if you do, a creature gains trample until end of turn, which helps enable that. But Mina and Den, Wildborn, do not actually have landfall themselves.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Which is interesting, because I've still seen some pretty good landfall, red-green landfall decks going around the tables.
The bones are still there.
Let's talk about some Eldrazi.
Ooh.
How about a lower drop Eldrazi?
Okay.
One of the fun ones, the Immobilizer.
Oh,
Eldrazi.
this guy.
One in a
I have
red.
opinions about this guy.
Yeah, so for 1 in a red, you get a 2/1 Eldrazi drone. It has Devoid. And for 2 and colorless, each creature with toughness greater than its power can't block this turn.
I put together the craziest blue-black control deck I have ever. I would take this into a standard event. This blue-black control. I had like 4 blinding drones, and like, you know, Kozilek's translate. It was stacked at common and uncommon. And it had like, I think I first picked a Thought-Knot Seer and a bunch of other like, you know, pretty solid rares. And like, I'm starting to, you know,
It's like a battery shaper in there.
Yeah, I get into round 1.
Basically modern playable deck is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically modern playable deck. I get into round 1, and like turn 2, opponent slams this, and I'm like, it does what now?
Because this turns off, in that deck, this turns off Blinding Drone, Gravity Negator, the 1/2 that draws cards.
Yep.
I can't remember. There's other ones. Basically that deck. The Vampire Envoy.
It would have turned off my Kozilek's translators, but I wasn't alive that long.
Yeah, it's real good. You definitely have to make sure that you can, if you're going to take stuff like this or Essence Depleter or some of the other colorless activated creatures, you definitely have to make sure that you're going to have colorless sources. But what's nice is that you can pick up colorless sources in the 3rd pack as well, because all the blighted lands, you can take an off-color blighted land as a wastes if you need to, right?
Yep.
If you're in red-white, you can take the Blighted Cataract that has a blue activated ability and be like, well, it's a waste. And that's fine, because it enters untapped. There's a couple other, I can't remember them all, but there's several other lands in BFZ that tap for colorless as well. And so, you know, you got to make sure you got a couple of them.
I mean, like
it's worth it.
The colorless abilities, picking up colorless mana isn't the easiest thing in the world, but if you're paying attention, there's much more of it floating around than you would think. Like, you're absolutely correct.
You do have to be like, well, do I take this sideboard card or this wastes? You should probably take the wastes.
Yeah.
If not in every situation, obviously, but if you have stuff like the Immobilizer, or what's the other red one? I'm thinking of Obligator. That's a rare. Obviously, Obligator's very good.
Yeah.
The Obligator it's a 3/1 for 2 and a red with Devoid. And when it enters the battlefield, if you pay 1 and a colorless, you get to active treason one of their creatures.
Yeah, it's the set's kill you out of nowhere card.
It really is, because it's a 3. Oh, sorry. It also has haste, so it gets to attack for sure.
Yep.
So you play the Obligator, you suddenly have a 3/1 with haste that they weren't, like, you have 3 more attack power than they were expecting, and they're down a blocker, and you have whatever their biggest creature is. It really is a surprise kill you out of nowhere. It's very, very good. But anyway,
I like my surprise kill you out of nowhere cards at 5 mana.
what ignoring the rares like Thought Not Seer and Matter Reshaper, what do you think about the colorless, the spells that require colorless to even cast them?
Oh, things like
I'm thinking
Wanderer of the Wastes.
Thinking of Wanderer of the Wastes, Warping Whale, Spatial Contortion. I think there's some other ones. I can't remember. What do you think of them?
Warping Whale is a very good card. Like if I would play one. Well, actually, sorry, Contortion, +3/-3 one.
Yeah,
that's great, right? Kill something with 3 toughness, or giant growth something if you need to swing in for the
something with higher than 3 toughness.
Yeah.
Don't kill your own creature.
Warping Whale, I want to play with this card so much. I want to draft like 4 of these and have them be a dead card in my hand all the time.
Yeah,
And just have like
I was excited for this card, Warping Whale. That is, I thought it was going to be kind of cool, and I think it still does some neat stuff. The top ability being the most exciting,
I think so. Yeah.
and it absolutely can hit some really powerful stuff. But more often than not, it just gets me colorless Eldrazi Scion, and it's just like,
I mean, I like the versatility though.
yeah, I mean,
Right? Like if you can hold it up, then maybe you randomly get like a what's that 5 mana black Remorseless Punishment. Like maybe that you randomly get something like that, or you get the white make 2 2/2s card.
Yeah.
But and if you look at your hand and go, well, if I end of turn make a Scion, the next turn I can ramp out this giant thing, then that's cool too. But the top ability, exile target creature with power or toughness 1 or less, I think it's more relevant than you might think initially.
Well,
it is. It's
Immobilizer Eldrazi.
I'm not saying that you specifically.
Yeah.
I'm just saying than one might think. Because I mean, the Immobilizer Eldrazi, we talked about the Vampire Envoy, the Blinding Drone,
Yep.
the Wall of Resurgence. There's a lot of things that it can take out in across these sets that are not like. It's not like, oh, I got your Wall of Resurgence, I'm going to win the game now. But they're
Useful utility creatures.
they're useful creatures.
Yeah.
Particularly Blinding Drone. Yeah, like if you can, it's only a 2 mana spell, and I think it's worth it for taking out some.
Yeah, I would be
whatever
happy to
creatures.
include that card.
Wanderer of the Wastes, I don't think I've found a great home for. Like a 4/4 trample for 5 is like, that's fine, I guess.
I think like a
Walker
6/6
of the
trample.
Walker of the Wastes, pardon
Yeah,
me.
sorry. Yeah, like I've seen this guy get up to like 6/6.
Really?
And he was pretty good at that point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's hard to get it that large, right?
Speaking of these colorless cards, actually, or the cards that cast for colorless, there's a colorless creature that only casts for generic mana that I think is super relevant, which is Hedron Crawler.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So 2 mana for an 0/1, but it taps for colorless. So it's a little mana dork. It ramps, but having a consistent colorless source, I think Hedron Crawler is a pretty high pick actually.
Yeah, like I guess this is what we get now instead of Land of War Elves.
Pretty
right?
much, yeah.
And I mean, hell, blue Land of War Elves, I'm in.
Blue Land of War Elves. I guess it kind of is.
Yeah.
Are there any other cards that require colorless to cast that we didn't talk about? I mean, apart from like the rares, like Matter Reshaper, Thought Not Seer, and those, because those are just good.
I don't think there are a whole bunch at common and uncommon, but I could be wrong.
Because I mean, so you said for Hedron Crawler, like blue Land of War Elves, because you need colorless to activate. We've already talked about Blinding Drone, which is the tapper. You need it to activate. I can't remember what it is. The 1/2
that draws cards.
that you can draw a card for.
Like it's backwards Azure Mage.
Yeah, for 3 and a colorless. One that I love is Gravity Negator, which is a 2/3 flyer for 4, and when it attacks, you can pay a colorless to give another creature flying.
Yep.
So it's relevant that the way that this works is that you have to declare both of the creatures. You declare the attackers, and then the trigger happens. So you can't be like, attack with this one, give this guy flying, and then attack with this one. You have to declare them both attacking at once, and then the trigger goes in the stack. Whatever. And this is also why these cards is also why Cultivator Drone is a very relevant card. That's the 2/3 for 2 and a blue, again with Devoid. Taps for a colorless conditionally. It taps for a colorless, but you can only use that colorless to cast colorless spells or activate the ability of a colorless permanent, or just pay a cost that contains literally the colorless symbol. So you can't... anything with Devoid, by the way, no matter the casting cost, anything with Devoid is colorless. So you can, for a Cultivator Drone and a Mountain, you can cast the Immobilizer Eldrazi.
Yep.
But you can't cast Azav's Commando. You can't use this mana for something that's not colorless or or Devoid, which is the same thing, but just to be clear.
I mean, it makes it much easier for the Devoid deck to pick this guy up.
Yeah,
because nobody else wants it.
Blue-black Devoid deck got real good.
Yeah, I think controversial opinion. I think blue-black is like quite good in this format.
Yeah. I don't think that's very controversial at all.
No, has that been the general consensus?
I don't know if it's the best deck necessarily. No. I mean, I think green-white support is very high up there.
Well, green-white support, black-white is very good.
Black-white life game,
I mean, from what I've actually heard, blue-black is sort of, middle of the road. But your experience may vary, I suppose.
Yeah,
your mileage
it's just
may vary.
like black has real good removal. Like Oblivion Strike is easily first pickable.
Has the public court of opinion converged on Oblivion Strike being the best common?
Possibly.
So Oblivion Strike, it's 3 and a black, exile a creature. That's it. It's just
very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's supremely efficient, and you can go. This is why blue black ends up being so good, because Oblivion Strike is a very easily defensible first pick. Isolation Zone is also a very easily defensible first pick. Isolation Zone is the slightly more expensive O-ring. It's 2 white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. That may not be relevant, but it's important to know just in case it is.
Yep.
You can Isolation Zone their Isolation Zone.
Yep.
And get your creature back.
So we can crash Mitko all over again.
Yay!
They have an Isolation Zone. You have an Isolation Zone.
But both of those are super defensible first picks. So you can be like, first pick Oblivion Strike, second pick Isolation Zone, and go, well, guess I'm in black-white.
Yeah.
And if they're open. I mean, don't force it, obviously. But I remember watching, I think it was Marshall was streaming the other day, and had an opponent, sadly, had an Isolation Zone and a Stasis Snare and a Quarantine Field.
Nice.
It was the common, uncommon, and rare Oblivion Ring, Journey to Nowhere style cards. That
Mythic rare, I think, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, Quarantine Field is mythic. It was just like, all your stuff is going away.
Yeah. And can I just say that I really love the design aesthetic, or the design ethos for this block, where all of the interactive cards that make the set, or that make the decks go, are at common and uncommon. And kind of your haymakers are at rare and mythic. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
You can put together some fun synergistic decks that actually don't have rares in them.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's talk about one more card before we move on to our other topic.
All right.
This card everybody's talking about, it's Bonesaw.
Another thing I love that we can have this conversation. So, LSV, thank you for...
indulging us.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
That was really funny. Yeah, for those who haven't watched it, at PAX South, James and I joined Louis Scott Vargas for a draft on Channel Fireball. And you can go and watch it. The playlist, the thumbnails actually say LSV on LoadingReadyRun, which was nice. And it's because he brought his computer, because it was pre-release weekend, so he brought his computer down to PAX South and to make some content and practice the draft. And we joked about it on Twitter, and then people were like, "Oh man, you guys should record a draft together." And then he was like, "You guys want to record a draft together?" So we did. It was great. And he came down very, very hard, very firmly on Bonesaw during the limited resources set review as being stone unplayable. You should not run it. It is a waste of a card. And he was starting to come around on it a little bit more. And then we were like, well, if that's the case, then let's take these Bonesaw. And we ended up drafting this ridiculous red-black aggro deck. And I won't tell you how it goes in case you want to go watch it. But there were at least 2 Bonesaws in the main deck.
There were 3 Bonesaws in the main deck. But then he stepped up his game quite recently on the stream.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he drafted 6 Bonesaws.
I think he only main decked 5 of them.
I'm pretty sure he played all 6. It didn't. It went very well in the first round.
Yeah.
It did not go very well in the second round.
It was worth it just because Owen Turtenwald Skyped in.
Yeah.
Was so appalled that he had to Skype in and make fun of LSV the whole time while the deck was doing very well.
So I will say this about Bonesaw. I don't mind it. I'm not excited to play it.
No.
I would never play more than one or two.
No,
I would
two.
want to be playing them in a pretty aggressive deck. I would want to be able to try to put these on creatures that have evasion of some sort or first strike, because the +1/+0 doesn't really help you in combat that much.
You want the 2/2 core that gives your equipped creatures +1/+1, and when an equipped creature dies, you draw a card. And you want Weapons Trainer, which is the white and a red for a 3/2 that all your creatures get +1/+0 if you control an equipment.
Yeah, but that's just the all-in plan. And that's what Luis did.
Yeah.
And it was pretty awesome. But I mean,
Is there any more being all in than running Bonesaw?
no. I think I have no problem running one in an aggressive, like something like a white-red deck.
I guess if it lets you cast Boulder Salvo on turn 2.
Yeah, like if it helps with, if you have a couple really good search cards, then
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with running it. But
Bushwhacker.
Yeah, I think you equip this on like a Scythe Master and then like blast, like just blam somebody with Boulder Salvo.
Yeah.
Right, and you feel pretty good, and you've won the draft at that point. Right, like
Morally, at least.
yeah, you make that play. You're swinging in with a 4/1 first striker,
Yeah.
and you've just like domed something for 4. Yeah, you're entitled to a victory lap as you get crushed.
Bonesaw is confirmed okay.
Bonesaw does a thing.
it sure does. All right, let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
talk about something that was announced actually
Today.
just today. Eternal Masters.
Which I had to reread the announcement because I was like, oh, Eternal Masters, that'll be a fun thing to draft on stream.
Right.
Because I assumed it was going to be Magic Online only. And that is not the case.
No.
It is much like Modern Masters. It is going to be a limited run paper set designed for drafting and centered around cards that are legal in Eternal formats.
Mainly Legacy.
Mainly Legacy, but of course not including the reserve list. Because
Cards
that's
from-
what the reserve list means.
Aaron Forsyth described it as cards from Magic's history.
But more focused on
Yeah.
older sets,
Yeah.
is what he said. So there are a lot of opinions out there about this set.
Really? I haven't had time to formulate some. Tell me someone else's opinion and I can agree with them.
All
or
right,
disagree with them.
Cam, let's hear your opinion. Let's all just gather around Cam and
Cam.
agree with Cam's opinion. No pressure.
I'm so hype. I really am. I'm excited about this. I want to play with these rad cards.
I'm pretty into it as well.
Show me, like, they showed me Force of Will and they showed me Wasteland, and I was sold.
Yeah.
Like,
By the way, aside on the Force of Will, people have reacted poorly in the past when they have done new art for iconic cards,
yep.
like Dark Confidant, for example. The only way you could get away with this is by getting Therese Nielsen
Yes.
to do the art herself, because Therese Nielsen did the original Force of Will art, and they did that, and it was a great choice, and the art is gorgeous, and I'm so excited for this.
I love how it's like the original Mage's sister.
Yeah. The only thing it's missing is Therese Nielsen's sick abs.
Yeah, I love that story about how Therese Nielsen based Force of Will on her own mega cut abs.
Yeah. She's like, I was working out a lot in those days.
Yeah, it's like, apparently, like, where did you find time to stop lifting to paint this card?
Yeah. So that's amazing. And the only other card that they've spoiled is Wasteland.
Yeah, which is City of Brass?
It's the-
Getting blown away?
Yeah, it's the repaint of. Is it the same artist? Because for Modern Masters they did new gorgeous art for City of Brass, and it became the key art for the set. And this is that City of Brass. It's the same angle, the same building, but having been destroyed. This makes it like the third or fourth different art for Wasteland, because of course there was an expedition of Wasteland
Yes.
in Oath of the Gatewatch.
I think this is the third one, because the first one was in Masks.
Not the same artist, by the way.
Not the same artist. Okay.
Yeah, Masks, then the Expedition, then this.
Yeah. The land promises nothing and keeps its promise.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
rad flavor text. That's the original flavor text for Masks.
So I assume that I shouldn't assume. What are some of the negative opinions, James?
So here's a couple things that have been pointed out to me today.
Okay.
This is clearly trying to get some cards into the hands of people who want to play Legacy.
Okay.
But most people will tell you that there isn't really anywhere to play Legacy anymore.
Right.
Wizards doesn't really support it. There's no more GPs of it. I believe they said that. There was only one last year, and I don't think there are any this year.
Right.
SCG has all but stopped running SCG Opens that support Legacy because the fact is that it's an incredibly hard format to break through. It's very expensive and
super expensive.
The fact is,
then the most expensive cards can't be reprinted in this set.
and that's the big problem is that this will more than likely help drive down the prices of the cards that are being reprinted. And I know a lot of people have said, well, Modern Masters didn't really do it, but there was
Modern Masters actually did though.
Well, it did.
Well, it drove down
it
commons, uncommons, and rares.
And even then, sort of. But some of them, like Tarmogoyf, is still as expensive as it was before. In fact, it's probably more expensive.
Yeah,
now.
but there's a couple cards like Tarmogoyf that are outliers that for some reason are even more expensive than before. But if you look at the prices of everything that was printed in the Modern Master sets, overall they did reduce the cost of cards.
Yes.
But not
the most expensive
but
cards.
not a lot, and it's still a massive.
That's the problem.
That's still a big barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And the demand for legacy cards is much smaller. So this will undoubtedly drive down the prices of anything that's being reprinted, but it's not going to actually help get people into the door of legacy because you're still going to have, $1,000 mana bases because they can't reprint them.
So I come at Eternal Masters from a different perspective. Much love to anyone who plays Legacy. I don't care.
No, it's true.
About Legacy, right? Yeah. So I'm excited for Eternal Masters from the perspective of, I bet this will be sweet to draft. It will not be cheap, I know that, but I bet it will be a sweet draft environment. And
I hope it's a sweet draft environment.
The past two Modern Masters have been.
The first Modern Masters was. I would argue that the second wasn't anywhere near as good.
I don't think it was as good. I still liked it. But I have faith in Wizards' ability to make a fun draft environment. So I want to draft it. And there'll be cool cards with new art and new borders and funky foils and whatever to, put in my Commander decks or Alex's Highlander deck or whatever. Has Wizards actually said that the goal of this is to try and get people into Legacy? Because
no, but
that seems like a dumb idea.
It is. It's following the exact same formula as Modern Masters, and that was exactly what Modern Masters was for. So something that Cam and I were discussing before we started recording the podcast was the idea that maybe this is sort of a cool. And I will say this with. We have no special knowledge or anything like that. It's just a guess.
We don't know.
Maybe this is the gateway to a new format called Eternal, which is Legacy with the restricted list banned.
Yeah.
Right.
Which has been a rumor or an idea that was floated on the internet for a while now, that as a way for Wizards to work around the restricted list,
right?
Without reprinting it. And allowing people to play with the cool cards in Legacy.
Yeah. Because it sucks because if they did that, you get Legacy players who are able to afford the Power 9 being
not Power 9.
Now Power 9.
Or the
dual lands. Dual lands are the big ones.
The dual lands, the stuff that's on the reserve list. Being Wizards is abandoning us or ignoring us or whatever. But they're such a statistically small number of people. It's to Wizards' benefit to get more people like us who can't afford, all the dual lands and the reserve list cards and stuff into, interested in a format to want to buy Eternal Masters. Right?
I also think it's worth pointing out that
they are in it to make money.
Yeah, and there are a lot of competitive Legacy decks that don't run a lot of duels. Like High Tide doesn't, and does quite well. Miracles runs like 2 Tundra and has 2 Volks, so it can have Red Elemental Blast and Fire Blast in the sideboard.
Right.
The ones that run a lot of duels are decks like Shardless Bug and Delver, right? The decks that are like very aggressive in 3 colors. So
And
like the reliance on duels is not universal in Legacy.
No.
They are characteristic of it, they are diagnostic of it, but it isn't. Legacy would survive losing the duels.
Yeah. Basically, they're in the Wizards is in an unenviable position with this reserve list because they can't renege on the reserve list, and so they can't support Legacy, right?
No,
Like
no, they can't. They can't encourage. It's impossible to encourage people to go into it.
Yeah. So then,
Right.
so then the question is,
Yeah.
why does this set exist?
I assume that this set exists because they've already done 2 sets of Modern Masters, and they'll probably do another one at some point. I assume this set exists because special limited run things like this make them money, and it's going to be a fun draft environment, and it was too soon to do another Modern Masters again. I honestly actually don't think that this set is here to encourage people to get into Legacy or a theoretical Eternal format that could exist. I think this is here as, we do a special product every year, and this year it's going to be this. Which is fine, right? They're allowed to do that, and I think that's okay. I don't see why they would want to make a product to encourage people to get into that format, because it's not going to make them very much money. Like, they don't support it, right? Like, Modern makes sense because they support Modern. They do Modern GPs. They do a Modern Pro Tour. People, like a lot of people, really like Modern. I don't think Wizards has interest in Legacy or an Eternal format.
Well, I think they do. I think there's a lot of value
Why?
in it because it keeps people playing the game. Just because you play Legacy doesn't mean you're not buying Magic cards. You're still playing the game. That's important. You want to keep those people playing the game. You don't want to alienate them.
Well, yeah, I mean, like,
I guess.
also,
I guess if you
people who play Legacy don't just play Legacy,
No,
right?
it's the same thing. People who play Modern don't just play Modern, which is why I kind of like the idea that this is the, sort of the entry into this new Eternal format. I think that would be kind of cool. I have no idea if that's the case, and to be honest, it probably isn't. I think that might be asking too much, but you don't reprint a whole bunch of cards without part of the reason being trying to get those cards in the hands of the players who want to play with them, right? You're not reprinting cards like Wasteland and Force of Will for the fun of a draft environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, Wizards has been reprinting Legacy cards. Like, they reprinted Stifle and Misdirection in Conspiracy and Brainstorm.
Yeah.
Those weren't...
That's not for the limited environment
No,
of Conspiracy. That's
Stifle is not a limited card.
what
Right?
What rarity is the Force of Will that they're reprinting?
Mythic.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're Force of Will is not in there for the benefit of the limited environment of Eternal Masters.
No.
So they can use a rarity to get around that. Like, sure, you're going to open up a Force of Will. I mean, actually, a Force of Will would probably be totally fine in draft. But I mean, it's the same reason of like, opening up Call the Gatewatch in Oath, right? Like, it's a rare, not because it's like a bonkers powerful card. Like that ability should probably be an uncommon, but then it would show up too often in draft.
Yeah.
It's a rare so that it doesn't show up often in draft. So you can still use this as a way to do these reprints and tailor it to the draft environment.
And I mean,
I'm excited for this, by the
yeah,
way.
all other things being equal, I'm really happy that these cards are being reprinted. Right? Like, Reserve List or not, there are decks in Legacy that I want to play that are not hamstrung by the presence of the restricted list.
Yeah.
And this, having Force of Wills being reprinted, even if it is at Mythic rarity, makes those decks much more accessible.
Yeah. And
I mean, like, there might be the argument that, like Goyf and like Vendilion Clique, these cards, the cards that are being reprinted at Mythic will not change in price, just because fewer of them are being added relative to the number of people who will want them, right? Like, so I'm prepared for that, but still, just the idea that these cards are getting reprinted makes me excited, and the idea that I might actually be able to put together a High Tide deck is sweet.
And controversial opinion from me, though actually not like sarcastically like you were doing earlier. I am okay with the idea that it will be expensive.
Yeah.
I know that pisses a lot of people off, but I think it's fine. And not because I'm like brimming with cash and I'm going to be able to just draft Eternal Masters whenever the hell I want. I'll probably be able to draft it twice.
Well, so
I mean, online probably more just because we have some tickets lying around. But like, I think it's okay for Wizards to have a more expensive draft format
I'm curious,
from time to time.
Is it more okay? Is it okay for you to say, so I'll tell you the MSRP is $10 a pack, American.
Which is the same as Modern Masters, right?
You never found a pack for that much, right?
No.
So is it, I have no problem with it being a $10 thing if I can get it for $10. The problem that I have,
that's a whole
other thing, right?
Thing.
Is that you can't find it for that much, but that's a problem. That's a thing that needs to be talked about.
I agree.
When it comes to the cost.
Absolutely.
Because when you say it's okay for it to be expensive, I completely agree with you. I think the $9.99.
I'm just saying I don't have a problem with Wizards making premium products.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
I don't at all.
I have no problem with that. I can't afford everything that they do, but okay, right? I can still play, Oath and BFC draft and whatever, right? The higher MSRP and relating to and how that relates to the print run, and then to suppliers and retailers knocking the price up. That's a different thing. That's the thing that happened when Modern Masters came out. It became a whole deal.
Like, I remember seeing a discussion online, this is tangentially related, but this is the way my brain works, where when the GP CTAC playmat, the double-sided Delver playmat, was spoiled, announced, and the first comment on the thread about it was, I wonder how much this is going to be worth. Yeah. And the first reply to that was, the entire problem with this community is that this is the first question anyone asks when anything is announced. Right? Like,
maybe it's just cool.
Yeah, maybe it's just cool.
I mean,
maybe it's just something that I kind of wish I could play with.
In that case, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but this is like, you had people taking very hardline stances before on like, if you don't see it for MSRP, don't buy it. And that's like, okay, that's a fine stance to take, but it's it might not actually be practical. Like it's like there's a lot of people who are going to be in a situation of, if I can't find it MSRP, I don't buy it there. That means I never get it.
Yeah, like I will want to play with these cards, which means I'm probably going to spend $15 a pack on them if I can find them Canadian.
God, don't remind me about the exchange rate.
Yeah.
I'm actually I'm bummed that there's not going to be an Eternal Masters GP weekend like there was for Modern Masters, because that was super, super fun. But I'm glad that I won't have to feel like I need to go to it, because it would be so expensive right now for us in Canada.
Like, I don't know. I'm just of the attitude that, like, if I want to do this, I will find the money for this, and I'm poor. But, like, I got better hills to die on than drawing a line in the sand over MSRP.
It's weird that people were having trouble finding these things at MSRP, even at, like, major retailers like Target.
Well, Target doesn't get this.
Or Walmart?
Walmart doesn't get this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, is that Walmart, Target, Lowe's, or wherever, I don't know, these big box stores that do carry Magic don't get premium products like Modern Masters or From the Vaults, stuff like that. They get their packs, they get like dual decks and stuff like that. So I will say, I won't speak for him. I know Alex was excited about the announcement. I think this is a very good thing for Highlander.
Super good for Highlander.
Super exciting thing for Highlander.
So that's really cool, and we'll get his thoughts on that in a future episode.
Yeah,
when he's back on the podcast. But
I'm just like hype over the idea that maybe we'll get like foils of things like Shardless Agent and black bordered Imperial Recruiters.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And the idea that maybe just once in a draft I'll be able to cascade into Counterbalance.
Oh man. Gross. That's rad.
And then
So-
I'll have gotten my $30 to $45 value out of those 3 packs.
Just in the good feels of that
Yeah.
play, yeah. So yeah, there's obviously, there's various discussions to have, but broadly speaking, I'm very excited about this, and I want to draft it, and I think it's neat. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other cards are in it, because right now all we know is Wasteland and Force of Will. There's a lot of other stuff we can assume, but
yeah, like
top.
top would be really cool. Imperial Agent or Imperial Recruiter would be cool. Like Shardless Agent.
This is also going to be really great for anyone who has a cube.
Oh yeah. Like Brainstorm, Damnation. I think we could reasonably expect to see a Damnation here.
Maybe finally.
Yeah, finally. They've been teasing it forever, so maybe this is where they were like, yeah, don't worry, it's coming up. And somebody's like, dude, that set isn't going to be printed for 3 years. And I'm like, well, okay.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? Anyway, I'm on board. So let us know what you think. I'm sure that there are many opinions that will happen in the comments, but
Yeah.
I'll be interested to read them. So. Any other thoughts, James?
nope, I'm good.
All right, cool. Well, that I think will do it for this week, coming up on the hour. So until next time, as always, our podcasts are brought to you by you and your kind support of our podcasts and everything that we do. Our Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Please check that out. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.